everybody, Little Gamer here, and welcome to a brand new video. I am so happy you've decided to join me here today, and if you are new, welcome! I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you are having a beautiful and wonderful day. Now let's just dive right on to this build. Now, this build, I was building it specifically in mind for one family, and that is the Jameson family. Do not ask me any questions about them, because I can't remember anything that I said about them in their creative sim. It was there, and then it was gone. Like most things in my life. But we're not going to dive into that. What we are going to dive into is the build, and what I was doing while I was building it. Now, of course, right now you see me just building the build, and just sort of roughing out a floor plan in my mind, and you're going to see me go back and forth a couple of times with different layouts and ideas, at least with the stairs and some of the furniture. And you're probably going to see me add and subtract walls, but that's all a part of the building process. Now, the family that I had in mind, and I can't remember if I said that a few minutes ago, with this family is the Jameson family, and I recently created them like 3 weeks ago, but I didn't post their video until like 8 days ago. At the time that I am recording this video, it has been 8 days since I posted their Create a Sim videos, and that is 8 days that I have not thought about them. So therefore, any knowledge on them is now completely void, because I have none, and I created them. I never have any purpose for anything that I do. At least when it comes to my videos, I have like, who? What are you talking about? I know no one by that name. Now, this is actually the 6th attempt of building their family home that I was doing. I had actually recorded or started building like 5 or 6 different houses, different layouts, different floor plans, and they didn't really click with what I had in mind. I wanted to do something that felt a little homey and something that people could play around with. Now, I have a horrible habit of making shoebox homes, so my homes often look like shoeboxes, and well, it's a little unfortunate. But I did do my best with this house, as I do with most of my builds, and I actually kinda like the way this one turned out. Now, I am building in Windenburg. There's like this empty plot right next to, I think it's the Bro household, on like this separate little island place. And that is where I am building today. I think the lighting is lovely, and I think it's just like, it's a perfect, tranquil place to raise a family, and that is why I think the Jameson family actually moved to this area. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit backstory here. Now, this is nothing compared to the Create a Sim. This is just a bit more about that family, because look, even though I can't remember a damned thing about them or what I said in that Create a Sim video, which might be problematic in the long run if I keep up this habit, I like to think that when they married, Marion and Augustus, that's the adults in the household, the mom and dad, I like to think that when they had their first daughter, she wasn't really too planned. Their eldest, she wasn't really planned, but she was just a happy little accident. In the words of Bob Ross and Augustus. And at the time, they were living in a really cramped, tiny little apartment in San Myshuno, and the rent was horrible, the neighbors were horrible, and the landlord was horrible. The amount of times that poor Marion found rats or mice just scuttling about or in her food was horrific, or the amount of times things broke and didn't get fixed, or something would break and they would fix it, but they'd fix it incorrectly and would make the issue worse. And so it took many years of saving. I'm thinking like maybe 6 or 7, maybe 8 or 9 years of continuous saving, of hard work and stubbornness on Marion's part when it came to the household purse strings. But they finally saved enough to buy a plot of land and build a house. Now, at this time, Marion knew that she would want to have another child, as did Augustus, so that's why they made the extra bedroom. But at the time, it was being used as an office. The toddler's room was, before it wasn't as pink or as girly or as toddlery as you see now. But it was originally an office, which is why it's so small. Also, toddlers don't need a lot of space in The Sims. They don't. But I like to think that Augustus and his gusto was just like, yes, we can build our house. We will build our house here, and we will raise our daughter and whatever child and or children we have. And he built this house with his own 2 hands. And even though he had no clue how to build a house, the man can read, and well, he had a lot of books on hand and knew where the local library was, and he had a few friends in the construction industry. So he just called up a couple of buddies, said, hey, I want to build my house for my family. We got the land and I've got money. Come help, please. Otherwise, it's just going to be a shack. I'll do my best to make it a pretty shack, but it will be a shack nonetheless. And so him and his friends got all together, and they decided, you know what, time to build this house. Let's get going. Now, I come from the South, all right? Now, I know you're probably thinking, okay, how did these 2 things relate to one another? And I'll tell you in just a minute, all right? Just listen to me, okay? I come from the South. And I grew up with my grandfather heavily in my life, and I remember going to lots of construction zones with him. Now, these weren't like construction zones where you go up into the town or to the city and you have all these big, heavy pieces of machinery and like all these men in hard hats. None of that. What you got is you got about 10, 20 men, mostly in work boots and jeans. Sometimes you see them in overalls. Half of them are drunk, and the other half are currently getting drunk. And you got them building your house. Now, a lot of people are probably wondering whether or not being drunk on the job and or currently drinking on the job was a bad idea. And well, I can tell you, yeah, it was a bad idea. The best work that I've ever seen done has had to be a bunch of drunk men just working. Now, granted, giving a drunk man a nail gun isn't the best decision in life. It works out when you're in the South and you're hotter than hell, and well, water turns hot too. But you know what stays cold a little longer here in the South? That's beer. So you got a bunch of people with Bud Lights up on the roof, up in the beams, just hammering away, putting down the roof, working on the roof, doing other stuff, building your walls, building your foundation, and every single house that my papa has ever worked on, well, had ever worked on, because, well, he's no longer with us, the rest his soul. He was an asshole, but he was our asshole, so we miss him. But every single house that my papa worked on, that he was either in the current stages of getting drunk while working on it, or was drunk while working on it. Well, let's just say there have been many hurricanes here recently. Well, within recent years, that have grown in, well, strength and destruction. And I'm telling you, every single godforsaken house that old man worked on, that his drunk buddies worked on, is still standing. These things have survived floods, They've survived Cat 4, 5 hurricanes. Even the Cat 3 we had come by a few years ago that just knocked down quite a few trees. In fact, my poor neighbor, he still has part of that tree still on his roof. Now, that's a conversation for a different day, but let's just say I don't like his son because he's just absolutely useless. But we don't talk bad about people on here because that just ain't nice to do. Now, oh, who am I kidding? I talk bad about everybody. It's one of my favorite pastimes, but it's in a polite way for the most part. At least I try to be. Now, this ties in with Augustus because him and his buddies, they all got absolutely shit-faced, and they were building this house. Marion, oh bless her, she had no fucking clue that her husband was drunk while building. I'm pretty sure that if she did know that he was drunk while building, she would have beat the tar out of him. But, that is, so they built this house right here, with their own two hands, and their hammers, and their nails, and their nail guns, and drunk off their asses. Like, oh my god, they couldn't walk 2 feet in front of them, but they somehow managed to get a straight roll of nails with that nail gun. And they're only minor injuries, thank you. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that, again, while I am from the South, and I have already told you my lovely story about how a lot of the men you see down here, especially them good old boys down here that you see building houses, are typically drunk and or getting drunk on the job. Very few companies actually enforce OSHA rules. Now, if they're going to be in a lot of public spaces like the city and the town and stuff, they'll make sure that they're wearing all their safety equipment and stuff because, you're in the city. 9 out of 10 times you're going to have someone who's not from the South or hasn't grown up in the boonies where it's paycheck to paycheck and you're literally growing your own food because if you don't, you're going to starve to death. Or dependent on food pantries, you're going to have someone like that who's all high-mighty and like, oh my god, these people are drunk, I'm going to go call on to OSHA. Well, yeah, like I understand it, they're drunk, they can get seriously injured, but they do their best work while they're drunk. And granted, all they're drinking is Bud Light, so I don't know how drunk you can get off of Bud Light, but so they'll have people wearing all their safety gear up in the cities. But here well, I live in a suburb right now because, well, it was cheaper for some reason. I don't know why. I guess land taxes have gone up and my mom has made a bit more money as well. So while it is cheaper here, she was able to buy someplace in the suburbs. Oh goodness, I'm so sorry. Forgive me, I'm absolutely tired. I'm tuckered out. I was supposed to go to the movies today at around 12, but my friend, it was just like, oh well, we're gonna have to push it off a little bit for a few hours. I'm a little minorly irritated with that. I don't like... See, Look, I messaged her. I messaged this lovely, beautiful woman at least 6 different times yesterday to make sure that the time was okay. She didn't answer me, alright? So the only thing I could do was assume, as is usually how it works when people don't answer me. They're usually going to go with what I suggested. Well, come to find out, after I set my alarm and woke up early as all hell, we have to push it to 2 hours, which is a bit more expensive as well, because I wanted to go to the early bird showing, because that was $5.50. That's $5.50 per person up in the early bird show, and that is a lot cheaper than $8.60 per person. Thank you. I know I sound like my grandma right now. The whole $8 is expensive. It is per person, and it's fucking expensive, especially when you're disabled and you have no real income. I just went off on a whole tangent. I'm so sorry. Now, back to the drunk story. Now, he was up with his friends, and he got drunk, and they were just building, and they didn't have none of their safety equipment, because when I come up with building stories of how some husband built a house for his wife, I just go off what I seen and what I know, and that's using absolutely no safety equipment, no harnesses, nothing. And getting absolutely shit-faced on the job, and still getting it done right, and getting paid. Granted, most of that money probably goes to the alcohol, but you never know. Or the church, because, good Lord, this is the Bible Belt. But we're not going to go into that. Now, I just finished The Teenager's Room. And in fact, just let you know, in case you haven't seen the Creative Sim, The Teenager's Room and the teenager's name is Madeline, or Madeline, if you're so picky about it. Um, or if that's simply how you want to pronounce it. You do you, hun. You do you. And the little one with the little room with the cute little unicorn rug is the toddler's bedroom, and her name is Jolene. Now, I wanted Jolene to be inside the parents' room, but after doing some thinking and the fact that I have babysat before, and I remember some of my toddler years, but mostly all my from babysitting, and the fact that I have so many members of my family, pop out so many kids, we could probably fill the whole county, honey. Um, I wanted Jolene to stay in there, but going back on my experiences with toddlers getting her own room. Mom and Dad need a nap. They need a break. They need a few minutes of silence, of golden silence. And by a few minutes, I do mean a few minutes, because if it's more than a few minutes, toddlers ain't getting into something, and you better go watch that toddler, because holy hell is she gonna get into shit. Now, I will go ahead and tell you, as you probably figured out, Jolene is named after the song Jolene by Dolly Parton. Now, I love Dolly Parton, alright? She's an absolute treasure. I would fight a bear for this woman, and I can't fight, much less a bear, alright? I would die, but I would. I would bite? Yeah, you know what? I would bite the bear. But I would fight a whole ass bear for that woman. She's absolutely gorgeous and absolutely sweet. And 1,000 out of 10. We love Dolly. We stand Dolly. I will not accept any form of Dolly slander. Now, I'm just adding some finishing touches and some knickknacks while doing this. And of course, while building, I was getting a bit burnt out. As happens while I was building. It's always when I'm building when I get either burnt out on something or I just get plumb tired. And it was at this time that I decided to go look at the playlist that was currently playing. And, well, let's just say that it took me a minute to figure out which video I wanted to play in the background. So if you see me pause for a minute or have some trouble doing stuff, that is why. Now, I also decided, you may see soon, you don't see them now, but I will be putting some rose bushes in the front, and I've also got a little tiny little story, an idea of who planted those rose bushes. Now, I like to think that Marion is the one who planted the rose bushes, because roses are pretty, and girls are pretty, and, well, most of the people doing the planting of the rose bushes here in the South are the women, because if we don't get out this house and make it our own, we will go crazy, because, I don't know, those of you who live in the South understand, but those of you who don't probably won't, but sometimes planting roses are the only way to keep your sanity. And, don't get me wrong, she absolutely loves her husband and her kids, but a teenager and a toddler, it's basically like having two toddlers. Especially when that toddler's in the middle of the terrible twos and is absolutely prone to temper tantrums and meltdown. And, I understand. But yeah, toddlers and teens can be difficult. I mean, teens, you can usually just, if you communicate to them and you respect their communication, they're going to listen to you, or they're just going to make the decisions they're going to make. But, toddlers, they don't know how to communicate, which is why they get frustrated so easily. Now, I forgot where I was, but yeah, I think Marion's going to be the one who plants the roses. And, I like to think she chose white roses because they remind her of her wedding day. She looked like, because her husband sees her coming down the aisle with her beautiful little dress on, and he thinks she looks like an absolute rose. But anyway, we're getting to the end of this video, and I hope you had a good day. Bye-bye.